What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and with a new hero likely coming up soon, I thought it might be fun to go through some potential specific abilities they might have. These aren't necessarily abilities that are needed in the game right now in terms of balance, but rather they're abilities that could work well in Overwatch, and would add some interesting new gameplay aspects. So without further ado, here's my top 5 new ability ideas. Starting off at number 5, we have paint spraying. Yes, Nintendo did it first, but it could still be implemented as a hero-specific ability in Overwatch. Just like in Splatoon, the hero could have a gun or some other kind of device that coats the landscape in a layer of paint, which could have a variety of beneficial or harmful effects on the teammates or enemies respectively who come in contact with it. This could be healing, speed boost, or some other kind of passive buff for friendlies, and damage, slow, or a similar debuff for baddies. There's been some speculation about a hero of this kind, and even some supposed leaks about them. So far, none of them seem particularly reputable, but there has been some interesting ideas, and even fan-made hero concepts in the community. I won't go super in-depth with any of these concepts, but there has clearly been a lot of thought invested by a number of different people revolving around this paint mechanic. While this would be a cool and unique new hero ability and theme, the reason I've only placed it at number 5 on the list is because it's an ability that would likely be incredibly difficult to balance, and could easily become frustrating for the enemy team. For example, how much territory could the hero cover with their paint? Does the paint last indefinitely, or does it dissipate over time? Can it cover walls and ceilings, or only floors? What about covering enemy barriers? There are a lot of brand new aspects that would need to be taken into account for a hero like this to be developed. If the focus is too much on simply covering ideal territory with paint, this playstyle might not appeal to many people, simply because it would feel like a chore, or an unengaging way to contribute to your team. Not to mention, desiccating Blizzard's beautiful well-designed maps with a solid color kinda feels contradictory to the aesthetic of the game. Overall, it's an interesting ability that could be fun and certainly would be unique, but more than likely, it would be a tremendous chore to balance, and the playstyle likely wouldn't appeal at all to many people. If Blizzard does end up adding this kind of ability to the game, I'm sure they will find some way to make it work. But to be honest, I don't think it's something we're necessarily ever going to see added to Overwatch. Coming in at number 4, we have new weapons status effects. Weapons that do more than just deal damage aren't particularly common in Overwatch right now. We have Mei's freezing aspect and Widowmaker's venom mine poisoning, along with most of Ana's kit, but that's about all. Adding a hero based around or simply having a weapon that deals a unique status effect is not only a welcome addition, but also seems inevitable over the long-term lifespan of the game. One possible status effect could be bleeding. While this would more or less be similar to the poison effect of venom mine in that it would deal damage over time, it might have slightly different attributes. For example, it could deal more damage over a longer period of time, but the effect could be removed as soon as you get healed in any way. This kind of effect could be especially effective if the hero dealing bleed damage is some kind of flanker who would be able to utilize it with hit and run tactics. Another kind of status effect we could see is corrosion. If any of you are familiar with the Borderlands games, then you'll know that the corrosive weapons from them are most effective against robots and armor. A similar thing could be added to an Overwatch corrosive weapon-based hero. I really doubt that Blizzard would make the weapon be specifically effective against Omnic heroes in the game, however, it could deal extra damage to heroes with armor. Instead of armor negating the first 5 points of damage like it does from normal weapons, it could possibly instead take 5 extra points from the corrosive weapon, or maybe even cause double damage, or have some other kind of similar devastating effect. This would satisfy the idea of it being super effective against metal, and would make the hero particularly strong against tanks and Torbjorn, especially during his molten core. Additionally, it may also be effective against buildings, such as Torb's turret or Symmetra's teleporter, and maybe even have some kind of benefit against barriers. Obviously, this is something Blizzard would have to play around with in order to get it balanced and feeling good, but I definitely think it has some potential as an ability in Overwatch. There is one more specific damage effect I have in mind, but it ties in with another ability later on this list, so I'll hold off on mentioning it until I get to that one. The number 3 ability on my list is deployable drones. This is another idea that has been kicked around a lot in the community, and it could work in a couple different ways. They could be assigned to specific teammates to provide some kind of benefit, much like Zenyatta's Orb of Harmony. Alternatively, the drones could function more independently. Maybe they freely roam the immediate area where deployed for a period of time, and fire at the enemy when they get close. This would make the ability more akin to Torbjorn or Symmetra's turrets. Depending on how the drones would work as an ability, there could potentially be overlap with many summoner hero ideas the community has also had. The drones would most likely be summoned by the hero, and depending on what exactly they do, they could function as expendable minions, or be designed to stick around for lengthy portions of the match. A possible drone summoning ultimate could have a massive or powerful drone spawn on the map via a drop pod like the ones we saw in the Uprising event. Maybe it would take a couple of seconds to deploy out of the pod, thus giving the enemy a chance to damage it before it fully activates and starts dealing damage, or healing, or both, or whatever the heck else a giant drone might do. More than anything, I think drones would be a great ability to add to the game simply because of how cool they'd be. AI could be problematic, but I imagine they would just work similarly to the already existing turrets. Balancing them properly wouldn't be too hard depending on what they actually do, and they would certainly be a welcome new addition to the game. Coming in at number 2 on the list is a deployable health dispenser. And yes, this idea is coming straight out of TF2. Given Overwatch's pretty much eternal need for more healing options, having a buildable healing structure could be a great new support ability that would differ from what we already have in the game. There are a few different methods by which this ability could work. It could take time to fully set up, just like Torb's turret. It might distribute a finite amount of health, and once it runs out, the device deactivates. It could also deal out limitless healing at a constant rate, but only for a set period of time before it automatically shuts down. Or it could remain active indefinitely and deal out health until it's destroyed by the enemy or rebuilt somewhere else. Basically, it's Orisa's supercharger, except instead of damage boosting teammates, it heals them. Because of this comparison, for the sake of balance, I could see Blizzard implementing the health dispenser as either a hero's ultimate ability, or else severely reducing either its health output, personal health bar, or implementing a limited lifespan before automatically deactivating. Honestly, this ability is one that I think is less a question of whether or not it will be added to the game, and more a question of when. It could pretty easily be implemented, as well as provide a unique new method of healing, which is something that has otherwise proved difficult to come up with. I could see an argument that it would basically just be an amplified version of Soldier 76's Biotic Field, and thus isn't actually a unique new ability to Overwatch. But once again, referencing Orisa, her supercharger is technically just a glorified version of Mercy's damage boost, so I see no reason why a glorified Biotic Field couldn't work as well. Besides, the health output of Soldier's ability isn't even enough to constitute him as a secondary healer, so I think some kind of major health dispenser would work in Overwatch just fine. And finally, coming in at number 1 on my list of possible new Overwatch abilities is Fire. Fire is a weapon that can be used in a number of different ways. You could have something like the Pyro's flamethrower or flare gun from TF2, or something more like a Molotov cocktail that ignites an entire area for a set period of time. Honestly, it's such a diverse and frequently implemented weapon in video games that it's really surprising how we don't already have some form of it in Overwatch. Getting back to the status effect I alluded to earlier, it would only make sense for whatever kind of fire weapon gets added to have some kind of afterburn effect as well. This would be pretty similar to the bleed effect I suggested, where it deals damage over a period of time to the affected target. This could again be used in hit and run tactics, or even to incite panic on the enemy team. Could you imagine what it would be like to have every single member of your team burning alive? Flame-based weapons could then work really well as area denial, meaning that a fire-based hero would most likely fit into the defense category. Now, I will say that there are some potential issues with this kind of ability. Depending on how easy it is to actually ignite someone, the mechanics of how the weapon deals damage, and how easy or hard it is to get extinguished after you've been set on fire, it could prove to be a challenging ability for Blizzard to balance properly. It could easily fall into the category of being a very annoying thing to deal with in-game, especially if the hero could ignite people as frequently as the Pyro does in TF2. It then stands to reason that being able to ignite someone most likely wouldn't be part of the hero's primary weapon, but rather would be implemented in one of their abilities and/or ultimate. I could see them having an ultimate similar to Sombra's, although instead of hacking everyone, it sets them on fire instead. Another possible issue with a hero like this is that they would be very similar to Mei with regards to their weapon mechanics. She already has essentially an ice flamethrower, and her ultimate can mass freeze people in an area. Of course, ice and fire are quite the opposite, but Mei in any kind of fire-based hero would likely be so similar in terms of their role in the game that I think Blizzard would be hesitant to put them both in. However, there could be a completely different type of hero who utilizes fire as a weapon that the community just hasn't really thought of yet. So I've got my fingers crossed for us to see a hero like this at some point in the future, because what's more satisfying than watching the flesh burn off your screaming enemies? Anyways, that'll do it for my top 5 list of new Overwatch abilities. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of these ideas, and feel free to suggest your own. Also, vote in today's poll card to share whether or not you liked this kind of top 5 countdown. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit the bell to keep up with all my future Overwatch related content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and for some reason, I'm feeling in the mood for some barbecue right about now. Well, until next time, have a great day.